All right, let's talk about psoriasis. But we're going to look at it in a totally different way, not as a skin problem, but as an imbalance happening inside your body. We'll break down 3 really powerful natural remedies, all based on the fantastic work of Dr. Z, that actually target the root cause. So, if you're ready to go deeper than just the surface-level treatments, let's dive in.
If you've been dealing with the constant frustration and discomfort of psoriasis, you know it can feel like this endless, uphill battle. But what if the real solution wasn't something you put on your skin, but something you addressed inside your body? That's exactly the idea we're going to explore right now.
So, first things first, we've got to get one thing straight. Psoriasis is not just a skin issue. At its very core, it's an autoimmune condition. And that's a huge deal, because it means the real fight isn't on the surface of your skin, it's actually starting from within your own immune system.
So, what does autoimmune actually mean? Well, think of your immune system as your body's personal security team. Normally, it's great at finding and fighting off bad guys, like viruses. But in an autoimmune condition, the security team gets, well, confused. It starts seeing its own healthy cells as dangerous invaders and launches a full-on attack. It's basically a case of friendly fire, and your skin is what gets caught in the crossfire.
Now, this internal battle has a really dramatic effect on the outside. See, your skin normally renews itself over the course of about a month, right? But with psoriasis, those faulty signals from the immune system kick this whole process into hyperdrive. That cycle accelerates from 30 days down to just 3 to 5 days, and that rapid pileup of cells is what creates those familiar red, scaly patches.
Okay, so what's actually pulling the trigger on all this chaos? Well, the root cause is a dysfunction in a very specific type of immune cell called a T cell. Let's break down what's going wrong with them.
To really get this, you just need to know about 2 key players in your T cell team. Think of the Th17 cells as the promoters of the disease. They're the ones driving all that inflammation. Then, on the other side, you have T regulatory cells, or Treg cells. They're the fighters, or maybe the peacemakers, who try to calm everything down. In psoriasis, the promoters are working overtime, while the peacemakers are suppressed. And it's this exact imbalance that's fueling the fight.
So you might be wondering, what's messing with this T-cell balance in the first place? Well, a huge factor is your gut. Things like using antibiotics, your diet, or even past infections can really disrupt the balance of good bacteria. And that disruption can send all sorts of confusing signals to your immune system, which only makes that T-cell dysfunction worse.
Okay, so now that we understand the problem, this T-cell imbalance, let's get to the good stuff, the solutions. We're going to look at 3 natural remedies that don't just put a bandage on the symptoms. They actually work by addressing that underlying imbalance we just talked about.
First up, and you could argue this is the most important one, is vitamin D. And why is it so crucial? Because it directly targets the problem. Vitamin D literally has the ability to go in and calm down and even inactivate those overactive Th17 promoter cells that are causing all the trouble.
And this quote from Dr. Z just puts its power into perfect perspective. You know, conventional treatments often use drugs like prednisone, which is a synthetic cortisol, to suppress the immune system. But vitamin D can have a very similar calming effect, all naturally and without those harsh side effects.
Let me ask you something. Does this sound familiar? So many people with psoriasis find their symptoms just explode and get so much worse during the winter months. Well, it turns out there's a very clear scientific reason for that.
The main culprit here is less sun exposure, which means your body is naturally producing lower levels of vitamin D. You combine that with dry air, maybe some changes in your diet during the holidays, and just the general stress of the season, and you've got the absolute perfect storm for triggering a major psoriasis flare-up.
Okay, let's move on to our second remedy, which is a fantastic partner to vitamin D, fish oil, or even better, cod liver oil. This isn't just some general health supplement. No, this stuff is packed with specific compounds that directly help your skin.
You know, cod liver oil is like a multi-pronged attack on the problem. First, you get more vitamin D, which we know is crucial. But you also get vitamin A for skin health, plus a heavy dose of omega-3s. And omega-3s are famous for reducing inflammation all over the body, and they're especially good at fighting the dryness and scaling that comes with psoriasis.
All right, our third remedy, bile salts. Might sound a bit more scientific, but please stick with me on this one, because this is the secret key that unlocks the full power of the other 2. See, it's not enough to just take vitamin D. Your body has to be able to use it, and that is exactly where bile salts come into play.
So, to understand why, we need to talk about something called cell receptors. Just imagine that every single cell in your body has these tiny, locked gateways on its surface. Vitamins and nutrients are like the keys. For a vitamin to get inside the cell to do its job, its key has to fit into that gateway and unlock it.
So here's how this all works together beautifully. When you take a fat-soluble vitamin, like vitamin D, bile salts do a few things. First, they help break down the fats in your gut to release the vitamin. Then, and this is the critical part, they help activate those gateways or receptors on your cells. This overcomes any resistance and allows the vitamin D to finally get inside where it can do its job, regulating both the promoter and the peacemaker T cells to help restore that crucial immune balance.
Now, along with those 3 core remedies, there are a couple of lifestyle adjustments that can give your system some really powerful backup.
First, trying intermittent fasting. It's been shown to have a pretty significant effect on reducing overall inflammation in the body, which is a major goal here. And second, there's a really strong link between psoriasis and gluten sensitivity. For a lot of people, just trying a gluten-free diet could remove a major inflammatory trigger from their system.
You know, the biggest takeaway from all of this is really just a new perspective. Psoriasis doesn't have to be this lifelong sentence of just chasing and managing symptoms. When you start to understand it as an internal, autoimmune issue, you suddenly have the power to address the root cause from the inside out.
At the end of the day, these remedies are simply tools. They're a way for you to start working with your body, not against it, to help it find its natural balance again. The real journey starts not just with treating a condition, but with truly starting to understand the signals your body is sending you.